Hello and welcome to podcast 21 of the Relationship Restaurant. This is Poppy and Geoff Spencer, and we are delighted to have you here. We are the relationship experts, and we have two very special guests in our studio today. And we're going to be talking about the topic of love and money. This is something that Poppy and I have been wanting to do a show on for so long because this is one of the biggest issues so many couples have.
And it's great to be here with the most darling couple we've ever met.
Besides us.
Anna and Will. Anna is a marketing expert, and she is 29 years old, and she is dating Will, who is 31 and is in the financial industry. So we thought, what better ways to say, even before you're married, if you decide to get married or not, what a great way to start a conversation about money and how we communicate in heart-healthy ways, because that's what we do on the Relationship Restaurant, is we serve up a menu of communication pleasures that will get you to increase all of the wonderful things in your relationship.
And we asked this wonderful couple here because we had a chat with them one time. We met them at a function, and we were just so impressed by the conversation we'd had and shared with them. Because as a dating couple, this isn't even a married couple, folks. This is just folks that have been dating for a while. And they
have money maturity.
They are way, way beyond most couples and most marriages in regards to how they think about money, how they talk about money. Money, one of the biggest issues that almost every relationship and marriage, that's when most arguments usually are formed over money. Many different things cause the argument, and money just is often the result. But money's a big thing in every relationship. So we're delighted to have you both here.
Welcome.
Well, thank you.
And
Thank you for having us.
We're so excited. Yeah. So before we get started and dive right into that meaty topic, tell us a little bit about how you met. We all live on the Gulf Coast of Florida. So how did you all meet?
Well, we met 2.5 years ago. 2 years and a couple months ago, and we were actually both married at the time. So we
not to each other.
No,
right.
We didn't backtrack to. You don't have to go 2 steps back to go 1 step forward or anything like that. We were married to different people, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But a lot of problems, which because we had problems in our prior relationship, it made our current relationship so much better.
Yeah,
we appreciate that, by the way.
We feel the same way.
Yeah, you know what you like and what you don't like.
What works, what doesn't work.
And we're able to head things off at the pass because we actually talked about this the other day. You're starting to go down a path that you already know where the end is going to be, and you cut that off and say, no, we better talk about this and get this sorted out before...
Yeah. But before we knew that, we met at a community group for the young professionals here locally. We were planning an event, and Will drove me crazy because I was obviously right and he wasn't. So it really unnerved me to meet somebody who challenged me in that space, and I wasn't used to that. And so we would just talk socially and see each other. With our ex-spouses, we would be out and about because we're both pretty involved in the community. And then lo and behold, we found out that we were going through separation and divorce at the same time. So it was nice to find a friend who was going through the same exact thing 2 years later. And that's really how we got started. And then it just evolved and progressed from there. It was a natural fit.
Yeah. It's nice to hear, obviously, your relationship didn't cause a respective divorce. So they just happened at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a heart-healthy thing, too.
That's a good thing.
So one of the things that's coming up later, because this is the thing that was our biggest aha moment for us when we talked with Anna and Will, was the number one thing that they do to communicate about money, which I think is just a dream thing. Of course, we are big proponents of it. But let's talk about, what do you do? How do you resolve a challenge or manage maybe a recurring issue, or even worse, something that happened in your prior relationships that tends to creep into your relationship now?
Yeah, we call that PTSD. And it comes up every now and then.
Yeah, we do. It's interesting because money being the big topic, for me, I am a product of divorce. My parents got divorced when I was 18 months old, and my mom's been remarried for almost 20 years, but was really instilled into me how important talking about your financial health was, because her experience, and she had always told me, and my stepdad too, money and kids are going to be the two biggest problems of a relationship. And being young and naive and swept up in the idea of what love is and romance, you don't realize that it's a business deal. And going through a marriage where finances were kept from me or not talked about was a huge learning curve, because I would talk very openly with my parents, my family, my friends, but then I couldn't have that conversation with my spouse. So it was really important when we moved forward and progressing, and plus with what Will does for a living, that we talk about that and lay our cards on the table. And as you guys know, going through divorce, everybody loses. So your finances, you go from a certain situation in life to a very different proponent. So that was something that it was important for both of us that we talked about on the front end, that we need to start discussing money early on if we want to be successful.
Yeah, I think I told you that we hang out all the time. We spend time together. We spend money together. We might as well have a formal decision-making process of what we want to spend our money on. And that's really what started it all, was just sitting down and saying, well, what do you want to spend money on? That's how it all starts.
If you could see these two in our studio here, they are touching one another. They're gazing into each other's eyes as they're talking about money. Okay, I challenge each one of you who are listening today to try this at home. Do try this at home. Really. Gaze into your significant other's eyes and talk about money and challenges and little squirmy things that maybe make us feel uncomfortable. The experts say that talking about money is so uncomfortable because we bring in our past experiences, our families of origin talk about or don't talk about money. So they're ill prepared when they enter a relationship because they don't speak that language.
Totally.
They've never been taught. Parents are often, and I'm sure to some degree we're guilty of that, not really teaching our children how to really communicate about money and how to think about money. It's often a topic I guess we all suspect to kind of learn in life and learn in a relationship.
Right. It's not really taught in school, right?
Definitely not,
if you get your master's in business, sure. But throughout your...
Well, I got my master's in accounting.
Okay.
And we didn't talk about personal finance.
Oh, you did?
It was all business finance, yeah.
It's all corporation finance, yeah.
That's interesting. When you have a challenge that comes up, because I know we do this, we developed our tool, the emotional clock, that tells us immediately when there's the littlest bit of confusion or anxiousness around a topic, we immediately address it as soon as possible.
And we can tell you guys, you've already kind of said that. You said that the minute you feel you're walking down a dangerous slope of some sort, it's like, this one's going to get messy somewhere else. I better talk about it now, which... That is a marvelous skill. Most big fights happen because none of that's ever talked about. They wait till it becomes a huge, big deal, and then they talk about it. It's too late.
There's other things that are mounted on top of that that become a bigger issue. So how do you approach a subject? Let's start with you, Anna. How do you approach a subject where you're not really sure how Will might respond, but you have a little bit of anxiety or confusion around it? How do you approach Will?
For us, we're really fortunate in the fact that communication has always come really natural. And we have both been and had experiences where we were with people and our whole life was our mobile devices. So we were very self-involved and both parties were guilty of it. We just enabled the situation. And so we talked about that very early on in our friendship of we didn't like the way that relationships were moving and just kind of what we saw in the world and how people were treating each other. So we make a concerted effort when we come home to definitely eat dinner together, to sit and talk, and then to have about an hour and a half just conversation time in the evening. Or we might have TV or music on and something other than your personal screen device in front of you. So usually for me, it's during those times where I feel like I can bring up something if I feel like that kind of, hesitation.
It's a very safe time, right.
And it's not a direct confrontation.
Poppy and I are getting ready to fall off of our chairs right now talking to these people. They
are millennials,
yeah,
folks.
They're millennials and they've broken every code there is to doing things right so far. It's like it's off the charts here.
We're high achievers.
Yeah.
No, really. So you made this decision even before you started dating, like, the plugged in isn't working for me. You recognize that in your relationship. Mm-hmm. So you then, when you started...
you see it at a restaurant, just look around.
Oh, sure.
All the time. People have...
On a date. They're both looking at phones. It's like you want to go over and slap them both. They put the phones down.
I always get really sad with families, too.
Yeah.
With the little kids and nobody's engaged. Okay, so what do you learn from each other? What do you think you learned from Anna? If you had to pick like one or two things, what would they be?
She's really good at subtleties of social, oh, we need to send a card to so-and-so or get them a gift. I was like, oh, you do? You have to do that?
Yeah, I skipped that class too, by the way. Yeah, right.
Well, I think it comes to women a little bit more naturally.
Like handwritten notes is something. She writes me a note every day in my lunchbox.
What? Oh my gosh. This is like syrupy, so awesome. Love.
So I just learn about the subtleties, I guess. I focus more on the big picture and focus more on the main ideas. And I have a purpose in life and I go after that. And I'm always thinking about, I'm very like one-track minded. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about business.
Which is good.
It is.
And she helps me broaden my horizons and go to lecture series or...
balance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a lot of this is the male
as
way
well.
of thinking too. Yeah, that's the way our brains work. One area of focus, one topic, and we go after that. We don't carry everything else with us. Where ladies so frequently they juggle all these things and keep them on play.
Right?
Yes.
As a psychology teacher, that we know why that it's a biological function that we have 927 more neurons in the brain than men do, so that we can meet those biological expectations of responding to our reproduction.
Proving once again how much smarter women are than men.
No, but like for babies, that's why women will often hear a newborn baby, even as the baby stirs with its little padded mittens in the crib, a mother will wake up and will sense that into that. So we just have more sensors available to us. So it's not to beat up the guys.
I know.
And just speaking of that though, but
I beat us up anyways. So
the multitasking is not a good thing anyway. And I love the single focus. It's being present. It's being in the moment. It's mindful. I think it's like a really nice gift if you can give someone that. How many times have we heard people go, he or she is not even listening. They're not tuned in. It's such a huge disrespectful thing to do to someone. So, but not this couple. Okay, so Anna, what do you appreciate most?
Well, that's mindfulness. That's the first thing that came to my mind that Will really gives me and teaches me and helps me be more mindful, because I am all over the place and I do multitask, and Will's really great about being intentional and impactful with all of his choices from business to personal. And he makes me feel so loved every day. It's just the little things that he does. I was just telling him earlier, I was singing his praises because it's so sweet. I leave before work, before Will does, and he'll walk me to the door and make sure that I have everything that I need. He reminds me, like, do you have your, cell phone? Do you have your keys? Do you have your wallet? You have your lunch? And helps me get out the door and always gives me a big hug and a kiss, which is so sweet and means the world to me. In a past relationship, I just got waved at, like, see ya. So to have somebody who's really a partner and supporting you, I'm an only child, so I'm used to having doting parents on me. So it's nice to have a partner who's supporting me.
I want you to know, too, by the way, Will, any listener now, any guy who's listening to this is going like, oh, God, I hate guys like this.
And just
make us all look bad.
FYI, it is 2018. It is the new year. We do have that heart holiday coming up. So, think long and hard a little bit. Okay, so
now that you brought that topic up, because this is a topic that often sends chills down the spines of most men. It's a great area of dread. It's like, oh, it's Valentine's Day. It's like I just got over the birthday or something, or Christmas, and now I got to figure out something for that. Often it's really hard, and I'm curious. I don't want to spill the beans here or anything, but have you already?
Do you have an idea?
Do you have an idea? Have you already talked about it?
I think we've talked about how. I don't think we both talk about how we both don't like how it's an excuse to buy things for somebody without any meaning.
Correct.
It's,
agreed on all.
You need to buy. It's not so much spending the money; it's about spending time together. Yeah. And
I think for me,
I don't really know what I'm doing yet, honestly. So.
So we have an idea for you.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay, good.
Romance isn't the stuff, and I think that's a common misconception. One of my best friends, she told me the most romantic thing her husband does for her is bring her a glass of water every night. And that he remembers.
It's an intimate, loving
exactly.
gesture.
So I think that Valentine's Day, for me, is just another day to take that thoughtfulness and just an extra reminder of how much you love somebody. But we're going to Miami that weekend of Valentine's Day. So that's kind of like our
So you can have an experience. Yeah. A treasured
Anything
experience.
special? You're staying at a hotel?
We're staying in an Airbnb, but we are
Nice.
going to go on the 17th. So it's a late Valentine's Day celebration to Gianni's at Versace's mansion. So
wow.
that's like our fun dinner.
That is fun. Okay, so how do you express gratitude to the other? Now, you mentioned earlier that you will get a note in your lunchbox every day. But how do you express the gratitude, maybe verbally or just through your actions?
It's really just whenever it comes to mind. Like, I'm just so thankful that Anna takes such good care of me. She always says thank you. And it's like, you're doing something for me and you're thanking me. It's like backwards. I'm like, what are you talking about?
No,
I should be thanking you.
We do the same thing. If you guys ever watch The Sound of Music at the very end of the show, when all of the people are performing and the fourth place is the woman who bows 11 times in the thing. And that's what it is. It's like, thank you. It's like, well, I'm thanking you and you're thanking me.
It's like a thank you note for your thank you note.
Yeah.
But I just really,
that becomes a vicious circle. You can never get out of that.
I know.
It's a.
We have a lot of gratitude here, all of us.
Well, you know what? All kidding aside,
we do.
that is something that is enormously important. That gets, especially over time in relationships, that slowly and very quietly slips away. That's why so many marriages find themselves down the road having challenges, because they lose track of that. They lose track of the very simple gestures, expressing gratitudes and sharing those things. And often, Poppy and I try very hard to maintain and keep doing that. But often that was learned through a lot of other challenges and marriages and relationships that didn't work. And so I think you all have really captured that very early on and wonderfully by seeing that in early marriages that didn't pan out. And you've very quickly gotten top of that game and do this very, very nicely.
One way that because just to answer your question, you said, how do I express gratitude? Well, I never want Anna to feel neglected, because she does do a lot for me, and it would be easy for it to be routine and for me not to say thank you and acknowledge it. And we talked about earlier how I'm very one-track minded. I'm focused on my purpose and my mission. But what I do every day is I have a morning routine, and I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. And that helps me kind of take a step back before the day gets hectic, before the emails start coming in. And it lets me reflect on how lucky I truly am. And Anna's usually top 1 or 2. You're always in the running. Put it that way.
Oh, good.
Well, thank you.
Win, place, or show. She's always in there.
I gotta keep her on her toes.
Yeah, I think that's really neat.
Something else these two have in spades too is great humor. That they can laugh at themselves, at each other, and this is. Let me tell you guys, you're
a unique group.
You're hitting each one out of the park so far. You're doing great.
So, have you ever had a challenging discussion that felt a little squirmy for both of you around money?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Almost every time we meet. So we have a budget date every 2 weeks.
Okay, this is the big secret.
Yes.
Now say it again really clearly, because people don't usually do this.
And it is shocking when people find out. So I get paid bi-weekly. So on payday for me, Will's situation's a little different, but mine's so regular. We have a budget date. So we sit down and we look at our finances and we put them to work.
Now, do you have the budget date at home or
we
out
usually
to dinner,
try to make it fun.
Okay,
and
good.
that was Will's idea. We had gone out.
Susie Orman suggests that too, by the way.
Yeah. We had gone and gotten takeout, and we were standing around the kitchen island. We live together now, but before we lived together at Will's house, and that's when he first brought up, hey, I got this crazy idea. Why don't we budget? And he's like, we should make it really fun, and it's something outside of our normal dates. Because it has to be accessible to have our laptop there.
Just to say budget and fun in the same sentence is kind of off the wall.
It's a little oxymoronic, right?
Yeah, it was. And it was interesting because I think you didn't expect my reaction to be like, yeah, let's do this. Let's go on this whole experiment adventure.
Yeah. PTSD.
Yeah. Right.
I was like,
So social scientists who look at this and look at couples and relationships, especially around love and money, will often say that there are spenders and hoarders, and those people tend to attract one another. So would you put yourself in any of those groups, or are you in a unique category?
I could do both. I could save a lot and I could just splurge. I mean, it really, typically I save a lot and then I do big purchases. Like we're going to Costa Rica in April.
Nice.
So that was the big.
That was my Christmas gift.
So is your splurging then, it's a mutual discussion, right?
Well, that was a surprise.
That was a surprise.
But normally
That
we
was
talk
Christmas.
about it. Yeah.
That was Christmas.
That was Christmas gift. But typically we sit down and talk about everything. We identify what we have coming up within the next 2 weeks and then longer term priorities. And we had, when we first started dating, we were talking about long term, what we wanted to achieve, what we had learned from our past. So that was really natural and very easy for us to identify those things. So that wasn't the hard part of the budgeting conversation. It's like the actual taking a look at what our true expenses are, what we want to do. Of course, I want my disposable $200 to go to Target and not care about, you can't get onto that place without spending $80. But like, I want to be able to buy nail polish, but the reality of, what you have to buy, what food costs, stuff like this. And especially both of us coming from dual incomes and not having clarity of where our money was or what was going on with it, to sit down and look at it honestly, was a difficult and challenging conversation to talk about too, just because of even the state of after divorce, what that looks like.
And also, which I think is so important, is that and this is so critical for everybody listening here, is that there's no shame and blame and guilt. I mean, that is absolutely off the table, right? Mm-hmm. When we talk about it so if you had a month or a budget date and you're like, last night we kind of like slipped over a little bit, there's not finger pointing or any kind of...
It's more about looking at reality.
So that objective view is so critical.
And when I say looking at reality, I mean looking with what you already have. A lot of people, when they budget, they're not really budgeting, they're forecasting.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is they're not dealing with the money in their account or the amount that they owe on their credit card right now. They're dealing with, I get paid in 2 weeks, and that bill's going to go for this expense, and they're basically assigning dollars that they don't have yet. True budgeting is assigning dollars you have right now.
This can be a really huge challenge according to your careers too. If you're in careers that you have, say, sales and commissions of some sort, there's often the conversations and expectations of,
projections.
If I'm a real estate person, when I sell this house next month, then I'm going to get this big payday. Well, that doesn't happen next month. It happens never, or 3 months from now, or whatever. And so those can be, that's another wonderfully wise observation. Not a forecast, but a reality.
And I think that creates, when people do that, and what we've both experienced, is that bone of contention, because there are unfulfilled promises that can happen, and then people's expectations aren't managed. And this gives us a really real world view of what both of our expectations are, and how to accomplish them. And Will is amazing and so patient at talking to me about it, because I'm not a numbers person. I am all communication, written word, marketing background. So we use this great app, which makes it very idiot proof.
So when we say spreadsheet, is that okay for you, or does that send you getting hyped
the app
or something?
Looks like a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, I'm good.
What is the app called?
It's called YNAB, stands for You Need a Budget.
Oh, yeah. I know YNAB. Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually just bought their book. He just came out with a book.
Right.
Fascinating story.
Do you remember the author? Well, we'll look it up for you.
Jesse Meekum.
Jesse Meekum, YNAB.
He's the founder, creator of the system.
Right.
And he wrote a book. Basically, the brief story is that in 2003, him and his wife were pregnant, and they both had part-time jobs. And they were going to go from 2 incomes to 1 income. And they were only making like $1,100 a month. And he created this system and was able to not only live off the $1,100 a month, but save almost half of that for when she had the baby.
Oh my gosh.
So that, because they go down to 1 income, so then they create a little emergency fund for themselves while she was 3 months after having the kid.
That is awesome. Okay, so YNAB. What about the unexpected cost that we didn't foresee?
Stuff I forgot to budget for.
Yeah,
we have an
like
account for that.
our water heater crashed just before the holidays.
Yeah.
That wasn't expected.
Yeah, so ka-ching. So what do you do for that? You have a column for that.
Yeah, you would want to build up an emergency fund if you don't have one, and that would be an emergency.
Anything.
If something broke and you weren't expecting it, or a bunch of doctor's visits and hospital visits.
Or the car, or whatever, your vehicle, something.
We joke about our semi-annual ER visit because...
I'm accident prone.
Okay.
She's okay, don't worry.
I'm good.
But yes, the reason budgeting doesn't work for most people is because they feel like it has to be completely rigid and it can't be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, life happens and, you overspend at Target or water heater blows and you need a new one. And you got to move money from it has to come from somewhere. And people don't shift accounts on the fly. So if you have $500 in vacation fund and you're negative 200 in something else, you just have to balance, move the money over. And then you're like, okay, good. I'm not going to overdraft.
And then for us, that opens up the conversation where you can have that honestly and not feel that guilt that I think comes with a lot of couples and budgeting, because then all of a sudden you're hiding, oh no, I, spent too much money or I splurged, or especially I know a lot of girlfriends of mine, they love to shop and then they're hiding it from their husband and they're putting it in their Whole Foods grocery bags and it's all their dresses and then they're wearing them, slowly dripping them out after a month.
So is that what's in all those Publix bags all this time?
Very funny.
I know we weren't eating that much food.
No, we're very open about everything. But I do know that dynamic of women that hide stuff in the cargo hold of their car or whatever, and then slowly...
Don't let their husbands see it. Sure.
And it's silly.
Well, it's not just a woman thing. I'm sure men do that too.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. They get stuff if it's in cash, and then it's not in the account, and nobody can find it. So I think because we don't have money problems per se, because we have such great communication skills.
Yes.
That was the baseline that kind of, we added the layer of finance on top of that.
Yeah.
And we're both very open with each other. Mm-hmm. So it's worked out real well.
Well, one of the things that, some of the people that we follow are wonderful friends out on the West Coast, Dr. Julie and John Gottman, they always say that there's the number one thing that is the cause of all problems in a relationship. There's only one thing, and that certainly isn't present with the four of us sitting here, but that word is contempt. Contempt will erode a relationship as fast as the mudslides that we've seen occurring. And whenever we have that resentment and that buildup, if we don't communicate, we're going to get that phenomenon. It's going to happen. So a lot of people say, well, money is the reason they broke up or they got divorced.
It's contempt over it.
It's contempt. There's always, money is always the sub-layer of some other more pressing dynamic.
And on that note, budgets can have flexibility so that you don't have contempt.
Right.
You could have a Anna fund money and a Will fund money, and you could, whatever's in that account, you could do whatever you want with. And I think that would help. That would go a long way, I would think.
Just a little disclosure here. When Geoff and I got married, I was really surprised because I had a car and he had to get a new car at this point. And we're at the dealership and he didn't even ask me. He just said, I'm putting your name on my car too. And I'm like, really? I mean, I just was kind of surprised. That just wasn't my past experience because it was always mine and yours. It wasn't an ours.
Well, isn't it great when the other guys make you look good? Not even trying,
Yeah, that's true.
No, so
that
was really important to me. That for me was communication, was that it was always an us communication. It wasn't one side or the other. The other person was also exchanging like you all do. So we are so thrilled to have you guys here. Is there any last thing that you want to say about, but if you could give our listeners one tip about that, would it be to set a budget date?
Yes, set a budget date.
Yeah.
Make sure it's fun.
Make sure it's fun.
So what are some fun things you do on the budget date?
Get good food.
Food is it's hard to budget on an empty stomach. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
Right.
And we also don't drink while we budget. So
Good idea.
Save your cocktail for a celebration after you do it. Be prepared to have some good conversation and go deep with your partner on, things that you didn't think you would talk about, but it opens a lot
Be
of
open,
doors.
be vulnerable. Being vulnerable is always key in all these things. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been truly fun, and Poppy and I are just wowed by people this
Yes.
young age, not even married yet, and they're still they got it all figured out.
They
So
sure do.
you guys get 5 stars across the board here.
And I love this. I love Will's starting each day with 3 things for which he's grateful. We end our day with 1 thing for which we're grateful. We have a whole year's worth of that. But I think starting the day is also a
Even
good
better.
thing too. I mean, we do start our day a lot of times with goals and intentions, like this is what I'm doing today. And we always talk as if it's already happening, not I want to or I'll try to. In fact, we don't use the word try. There's 3 words we don't use in relationships. Ready? Try. Well, should, maybe 4. Try, should, never, and always.
Never and always.
Do not use those words.
Unless you're saying, I always love you. That's okay.
That's okay. So we are Poppy and Geoff Spencer, and you can sign up for our upcoming free online, no pitch, fun course, February 1st. It is going to be so much fun. We'll have a wonderful way to talk about your new year and your dreams for your new year relationship. And this would be really cool. And we invite you to join us. It's free. You can go to poppyandgeoff.com/Feb, F-E-B. And that's POPPYANDGEOFF/Feb, F-E-B, like February. And we look forward to inspiring you. And we have certainly been inspired by our wonderful guests, Anna and Will. And we can't wait to hear from you. Leave a comment on our website. We'd love to hear from you about your budget date and what creative things you've done to make it fun. Take care, y'all. And
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Until then.